All right, good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me. My name is Maciej Hryniewicki. I'm a senior manager in the One Analytics consulting practice at PwC Canada, where I lead the design and development of AI-driven solutions for large multinational clients. And I'm here to talk to you today about PwC's 2020 AI Predictions Report, and specifically 5 priorities that organizations should target when pursuing AI initiatives. Now, I'd like to start off by level setting and showcasing a few factors. Namely, what is the estimated impact of AI on the global economy? What are some of the use cases for specific industries and fields? And what's the real value of AI for your business? And certainly, how can you capitalize on that? So in a recent study performed by PwC on analyzing just how big of a game changer AI likely is to be, it was estimated that AI could contribute up to $15.7 trillion to the global economy by 2030. And for reference, this is more than the current output of China and India combined. Now, just so this doesn't sound nepotistic, a recent McKinsey study tagged this number at a more modest 13 trillion. The economic impact of AI will be driven largely through the 3 color-coded reasons that you see on the screen there. First and foremost, productivity gains from businesses automating processes. Secondly, productivity gains from businesses augmenting their existing labor force with AI. And thirdly, increased consumer demand resulting from the availability of personalized and or higher quality AI enhanced products and services. So of this 15.7 trillion, 6.6 is likely to come from an increase in productivity, whereas 9.1 trillion is likely to come from consumption side effects. So from the productivity gain side, in the near term, the biggest potential economic uplift from AI is likely to come from improved productivity. This includes automation of routine tasks, augmenting employees' capabilities, and freeing them up to focus on more stimulating and higher value added work. From the increased consumer demand side, eventually the GDP uplift from product enhancements and subsequent shifts in consumer demand, behavior, and consumption emanating from AI will overtake productivity gains. And again, this is potentially going to deliver about $9 trillion worth of additional GDP by 2030. Now, despite the prevalence that AI likely already has in your current day-to-day lives, pause for a second and actually imagine what the next 10 years may look like once these 9.1 trillion of so-called consumption effects come into play. Pretty striking, if you ask me. Not to discredit the number of new jobs that this is going to create, we envision that new jobs will be created by the shifts in productivity and consumer demand emanating from AI and through the value chain of AI itself. And in addition, new types of workers who will be focusing on thinking creatively about how AI could be used in our day-to-day lives will be developed and applied. So as you can imagine, the shift over the next 10 years is going to be pretty big. With all that said, certain economies have the potential to gain more than others in both relative and absolute terms. So if we actually look at a map of which regions are most likely to gain the most from AI, it's safe to say that globally all regions will be benefiting from this technology. But certainly North America and China stand to see the biggest economic gains. So in North America, the potential uplift to GDP from AI will be amplified by huge opportunities to introduce more productive technologies, many of which are ready to be applied in the current day. Whereas in China, the high proportion of Chinese GDP that comes from manufacturing actually heightens the potential uplift from introducing more productive technologies. Now, I'm sure we have quite a diverse audience here, so I wanted just to showcase that no industry is immune from the far-reaching grasps of AI use cases. So what you see here is a breakdown of AI adoption maturity in the near term, the midterm, and the long term across 8 different industry sectors. And immediately you'll notice that financial services, technology, and communications, as well as retail, are actually the front runners, whereas healthcare actually expects to see a longer term play due to the barriers that it needs to overcome due to privacy concerns with sensitive health data. Now, in regard to use cases, just to quickly run through a list, healthcare, we're talking about supporting patient diagnoses and early identification of potential pandemics, which is obviously quite topical. Automotive, it's things like autonomous fleets for ride sharing and semi-autonomous features such as driver assist. Financial services, personalized financial planning, fraud detection, anti-money laundering. Transportation and logistics, autonomous trucking and delivery, enhanced security. Tech, communication, and entertainment, media archiving and searching, personalized marketing and advertising. Retail, personalized design and production, anticipating customer demand is a big one. Energy, smart metering, something we already see, more efficient grid operation and energy storage. And finally, manufacturing, enhanced monitoring and auto correction of manufacturing processes, as well as on-demand production. So hopefully that gives you a glimpse into the potential opportunity, not only from a GDP perspective, but also from a use case and applicability perspective. Now let's take a look into PwC's 2020 AI predictions report and the findings there within. These insights provide lessons in how businesses and technology executives are overcoming challenges, what their priorities are for AI progress, and how they actually expect to reap these rewards. Now, large corporations are rightfully still focused on capturing the expected 16 trillion in AI gains in the next decade. And many executives that have been surveyed actually believe that AI offers more opportunities than risks, which is certainly quite exciting. Now, to help you make the right AI moves this year, PwC has created a list of priorities that we think businesses that will follow these will certainly be poised for a more transformative payoff in the years ahead. So as I mentioned, every year for the past several years, PwC Research, which is our global COE for market research located in PwC's London headquarters, conducts a survey of over 1,000 C-suites and executive level leaders to gather their opinions on AI. PwC's third annual AI predictions report shows that only 4% of executives surveyed plan to deploy AI enterprise-wide in 2020. And this is in stark contrast to a year ago, where actually 20% hoped to do the same. So what happened, you ask? Our annual survey, in conjunction with working with our clients to actually develop these analytics, reveals a primary reason. And that's really the need to focus on fundamentals before enlarging AI projects and thinking big picture. So what we came up with were these 5 key findings. First and foremost, getting on board with boring AI. Secondly, rethinking upskilling. Thirdly, leading on risk and responsibility through responsible AI. Fourth, operationalizing AI. And 5, reinventing your business model. So let's get into each of these. Number 1, boring AI, getting on board with boring AI. The key thing to say here is really just to focus AI efforts on back office tasks and automation to reap the ROI and lay the foundation for real transformation. In 2020, much of the AI excitement will come from results that may sound actually pretty mundane: incremental productivity gains for in-house processes, automation of routine and mundane tasks. However, for a company's bottom line, automating routine tasks in administrative functions, such as tax and finance, for instance, is actually anything but boring. Companies can actually see remarkable savings from AI to extract information from tax forms, bills of lading, invoices, and other documents that typically require long and tedious hours of human work. And certainly when we look at some of the other applications, managing risk, fraud, and cybersecurity, supporting decision-making, and gathering forward-thinking and forward-looking intelligence are great examples of how AI could actually augment complex processes. And it's really this kind of practical AI that's ranging from chatbots to recommendation engines and advanced modeling methods for business processes and better decision-makings, which will become more widespread in the years to come. So what's your to-do list when it comes to boring AI, you might be asking? First and foremost, be strategic. Create an intake strategy to identify where AI can have the greatest business impact and build the capabilities that AI needs to succeed. Secondly, get organized. Make sure that AI solutions are really used. And in order to do so, think about how that integrates with other systems, other centralized oversights that might be required to do so. And thirdly, set the metrics. To support the adoption of AI, create enterprise-wide KPIs that include measures of efficiency, effectiveness, disruption, and innovation of existing business processes. Number 2, upskilling. True upskilling for artificial intelligence is about much more than just training, and it actually requires a citizen-led approach. So as the executives in our survey recognized, you also need to give immediate opportunities and incentives for people to apply what they've learned, so that knowledge turns into real-world skills that improve performance. And such a citizen-led approach is actually not only the most effective way to teach tech chops like creating data sets, building a machine learning model, or using Python or R notebooks, but it also actually helps create a digital AI-ready mindset that focuses on lifelong learning and cross-functional ways of working and problem solving. And while this trend of democratizing AI, making it accessible for your entire workforce, is a positive one, data scientists and AI specialists will still need to keep a close eye on AI model development and training, data and model governance, and how IP rights and openly sourced software and data sets are handled. So what's on your organization's 2020 to-do list as it relates to upskilling? Number one, plan to offer opportunities. Most of what companies call upskilling is really just up-knowledging. Turning knowledge into performance that benefits the businesses requires first identifying what skills are needed, then giving employees opportunities to actually apply, perfect, and share what they've learned. Number two, create a citizen-led culture. The best workforce programs create a new culture, and that certainly comes from the business leaders from a top-down perspective, not only in setting direction and goals, but also giving employees the tools, platforms, and incentives they need to succeed. And finally, set a multilingual target. Make it a priority to give different specialists the ability to speak the language of other specialties. For faster cross-skilling and cross-functional collaboration, create multilingual terms with data engineers, data ethicists, data scientists, and ML ops engineers as part of the application development and business teams. Number three, responsible AI. Now, capitalizing on artificial intelligence means being proactive about risk and embracing responsible AI. Now, one striking theme, and perhaps the bad news from this year's survey, was that business and technology leaders they all seem far too complacent about AI's real risks, including business and societal. Now, as you can imagine, there's a number of different risks that AI can actually pose to an organization. First and foremost, there's performance risks, so risks of bias or errors. There's security risks, which include cyber, privacy, or open source intrusion risks. There's control, which is rogue AI, right, such as Microsoft's infamous 2016 Tay chatbot. There's ethical risks, which involve lack of values. Societal risks, which include autonomous weapons. And economic, which includes job displacements and liabilities. The good news, though, is that there are ways to proceed with confidence, namely through the adoption of responsible AI. And we'll get into what that means in a second. What does that actually look like, though? It's really integrating processes, tools, and controls needed to address critical areas like bias, explainability, cybersecurity, and ethics, amongst others. And responsibility applies to the entire workforce, too. As AI takes tedious tasks off of your employees' shoulders, you should invest in upskilling and cross-skilling your people so that they can welcome AI as an opportunity to perform higher value work. And our advice to you on this element is threefold. First and foremost, take a multidisciplinary approach. Whichever governance structure your company chooses, its teams must include management, procurement, compliance, technology, and data experts, as well as process owners from different functions. It should cover the entire enterprise. Build up your AI risk confidence. Ensure that with the help of risks and compliance functions, you have the right AI standards, controls, tests, monitoring, and all risk aspects of AI. You'll also need a budget for AI assurance, just as likely you do for cybersecurity and cloud security. And three, act to maintain performance. Good governance and risk management don't have to mean slow going. The right level of explainability, for example, will depend on each AI model's level of risk, allowing quicker action than some. It's also possible to automate many governance processes, such as capturing data in model sheets and automatically determining risk ratings for possible human review. Number four, operationalizing AI. Putting AI to work means fusing it with analytics, IoT, and other enterprise systems, and having the roles and processes to keep it running. AI doesn't do its best when it works isolated from other technologies, or when it's siloed in a lone function or business line. First of all, AI needs data, and as it gets more quality data from more sources, it actually gains power. Secondly, some of AI's most valuable uses come from when it works 24/7 as part of a broader operational systems, such as marketing or finance. AI leaders are therefore operationalizing AI across multiple functions and business units in full integration with broader automation initiatives, data analytics, or even both. And given that approach, it's no surprise that the top three AI data related challenges all have to do with different kinds of integration, integrating data from across the organization, integrating AI and analytics systems, and integrating AI with IoT and other um, technology systems. To solve these and other challenges as you make AI operational, it's critical to realize that AI development is very different from software development and requires a different mindset, approach, and tools. Whereas software development is based on rules of coding, AI model development actually requires a test and learn approach in which the algorithms are continuously learning and the data is being refined. So, what are the three secrets to success? First of all, embed AI in your overall IT stack. Incorporate AI models that are responsible for automation or key decisions while interfacing trained AI models into production applications to scale up use. This embedding of AI into IT should also support a common AI services layer that allows for any application to integrate with AI models. Number two, develop machine learning operations or MLOps. The key to making AI part of a daily operations is new capability, like I mentioned, MLOps, which combines expertise in data science with software engineering and IT operations. For an effective MLOps team, most companies will need to hire and upskill talent. And third, make your data trustworthy. To make AI operational at scale, it needs data that is not just accurate, but actually standardized, labeled, complete, free of bias, compliant with regulations, and secure. Only then can you trust your data and the results of the AI models that are based on it. Finally, number five, reinvent. With most businesses built on human and physical assets, thinking about how to integrate AI's cognitive assets is equally as important. Getting AI technology right is not simple, but it's actually the easy part. The top AI related challenges, according to our survey respondents, is actually are not actually moving AI initiatives from pilots to production or managing AI's convergence with other techs. In fact, instead, the top challenges, are business and people oriented, measuring its ROI, getting a budget approved and training current employees to use AI, and so on and so forth. These challenges reveal why some companies actually might be scaling back company-wide ambitions for 2020. And this also highlights the need for sustained commitment to AI from senior leaders. Measuring and making the case may be difficult because AI usually delivers value indirectly by helping employees and other technologies work better. It often works best as one of several moving parts in an integrated package. So, for example, your AI investment may help your decision makers make better choices, improve employee engagement by freeing them from tedious tasks, and speed up your IoT systems analytics. But traditional metrics may not be able to identify and quantify these values. So that's why it's essential to treat AI not as a silver bullet or a single solution, but as part of your broader automation or business strategy. Depending on the business issues at hand, analytics or simpler forms of automation such as RPA might be the best solution, in fact. But there may be bigger strategic efforts which are needed, um, in which AI is a greater addition. So, what are the key three takeaways from this pillar? Number one, revisit your business model. As AI helps automate, assist, and augment your workforce and decision making, evaluate the consumer value that's being generated and determine how you want to share, use, or invest this new value. Number two, monetize cognitive assets. As you roll out AI, you should create unique data assets and cognitive assets as well. AI models that encapsulate your company's experience and expertise in a specific domain. Your business must be able to capitalize on these insights and outcomes that these new assets actually are able to offer. And three, make your strategy work in AI time. With the rapid changes that AI and other emerging tech are bringing, an annual planning cycle and biannual strategy refresh won't cut it. Build an AI-driven approach to strategy that is both more dynamic and more resilient to market changes. So with those 5 key priorities in mind, let's get ready for AI together. PwC's 2020 AI Predictions Report is just one of many forms of market research we've developed through the years on the topic of AI and automation. And to direct you to some further reading from PwC, we have several other exciting pieces of thought leadership to direct you towards. First and foremost is our 2017 study entitled Sizing the Prize. This is really about measuring the economic impact of AI and the next 10 years that lie ahead. In a 2018 report that we put together, Will Robots Really Steal Our Jobs? An international analysis of the long-term impact of automation and AI on jobs was done. And the spoiler here is that it's actually going to create quite a bit of jobs. And lastly, 2019 PwC's Responsible AI Toolkit, an innovative and industry-leading approach to designing, developing, and adopting responsible AI and ethical AI. Lastly, I just want to leave you with the question whether or not you're ready for AI. I hope I've been able to provide you with some insights into how it's our responsibility as practitioners and users of AI to develop and use AI solutions that are responsible, ethical, and insightful and meaningful for our businesses. Organizations must make sure that their use of AI fulfills a number of different criteria and adopts a holistic approach from strategy through to design and implementation. First and foremost, the AI that's ethically sound and responsible and complies with regulations in all aspects. Secondly, one that's underpinned by a robust foundation and end-to-end enterprise governance. And third, one that's supported by strong performance pillars, including ones that address bias and fairness, interpretability and explainability. And third, robustness and security. And with that in mind, again, we just wanted to leave you by asking, are you and your businesses ready for AI? We at PwC offer a responsible AI diagnostic that gives you a clear perspective into your own organization's AI implementation and its overall readiness. Moreover, it helps you find out how you compare to your peers and other organizations within your and adjacent industries. So feel free to check that website out. Once again, thank you. I hope I've been able to give you a perspective into not only the size of AI and the size of the prize, but also a snippet into PwC's 2020 AI predictions report, as well as 5 priorities that are required to make AI successful within your organization. And finally, some self-reflection and assessment as to whether your organizations or teams have adopted and endeavored upon responsible AI with this exciting and innovative technology. I look forward to staying connected with you all. Please feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have any questions. Happy to continue the relationship and answer any questions you have if they come up at a later time. Thanks, everybody.